what is it? Exemplify? Amplify? Hey everybody, Deathblade here with another Chinese fantasy novel FAQ. The term I'm going to talk about today is actually something that comes up not just in Chinese fantasy novels, but in everyday Chinese life, and I actually believe that it is often mistranslated egregiously, both in the novels and in even the news. I just saw a news article a couple weeks ago that talked about this, and it is completely conveys the wrong information the way it's translated when it is translated literally. So I'm talking about the expression beat you to death. So if you have read Chinese novels, you've probably seen this. I would imagine some translators just translate it directly and the character will be like, I'm gonna beat you to death. The other day I saw a news report from China about, I believe it was a road rage incident. A guy hit somebody, or somebody hit the guy, I forget, and somebody got out of the car and started attacking the person, and then in the news article it said he was heard to be yelling, I will beat you to death, I will beat you to death. Okay, so literally the term 打死 does mean beat or hit, 打, and 死 to death, but it does not literally mean beat you to death, any more than if somebody in English was like, you're dead, like that doesn't literally mean that they are going to die, right? The character 死 can be added to a lot of things in Chinese to basically make an exaggerated, or to make a point, basically. And it's the same in English, right? I am hungry to death. I am bored to death. In those cases, death, the word death is being used to amplify whatever you're adding it to, and it's exactly the same in Chinese. In fact, I think in Chinese there are many more situations in which you can add the character 死, death, to anything. 饿死了 means I am hungry to death, just like in English, and you can do that all over the place, and it's exactly the same with this 打死. Now, let's talk about 打 for a second. Although 打 could be translated beat, there's actually a more specific word in Chinese, 揍, which is specifically actually beating. 打 just means to hit, and in fact that character 打 can be used in a lot of situations. Anything from turning on the lights to checking in at work, you use that exact same 打 verb. And so I think to translate it as beat is a little bit over the top. Another example, when parents talk about spanking children, that's the word they use. Now, I'm not going to get into the whole should you spank your kids or not thing, but in the end, there's a big difference between spanking a child and beating a child, unless you want to claim that beating is spanking. But I'm pretty sure most people would agree that smacking a kid on the butt lightly is a lot different than like doing that to them. And it's the same in Chinese. When Chinese parents talk about spanking kids, they're going to use 打, and then if they're threatening the kid, they might be like 打死你, 打死你. And it basically is not the parent saying, so let's use that. That's actually the perfect example. In Chinese, I think it would be perfectly acceptable and common for a parent to be like 打死你, in public, at home, whatever. That doesn't necessarily mean they're going to follow through, and it definitely doesn't mean they're going to beat their kid to death. In English, I'm pretty sure you would never hear any responsible parent say to their child, I'm going to beat you to death. Like, there's just no way. And so that kind of perfectly illustrates why I think 打死 should not be translated as beat you to death. Now, there is an exception, as I talked about in my other video about seeking death or courting death. Obviously, in the Chinese fantasy novels, everything gets ratcheted up. There's a lot more hyperbole, there's a lot more exaggeration, and sometimes they do resort to the literal meaning of the word, and a character will actually start attacking, beating, and maybe even killing a character, or they might even say 打死你 while they are actually killing somebody. And so in that case, obviously it would make sense to translate it literally and directly. But again, this is just an exaggerated expression that gets used all the time. I heard kids in the classroom back when I was a teacher, again, these are kids, 4 or 5, maybe 8 or 9, they would throw this around to each other, and it's perfectly acceptable. And even in the classroom environment, the teachers don't really worry about it. I think parents might not even care at all if their little kids would say something like this. Conversely, in most households in English-speaking countries, I think the average parent probably would not want their child to go around saying, I'm gonna beat you to death to their friends or whatever. So this is another one of those really common expressions that comes up in the Chinese fantasy novels a lot. I hope that this kind of makes these novels a little bit easier to understand for you and puts the culture more into context. Chinese people aren't actually going around telling each other they're going to beat each other to death. It doesn't work that way. Not any more than you would say if someone was like, you're dead. is going to mean that they're going to kill them or that that person is literally going to die. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to support my videos, please check the video description. There are links to all sorts of ways that you can support me, and I'll see you in the next video. God bless.